Hello everyone, I'm Kate. I was head of growth product design at Miro for over 6 years, and I believe what is good for user is good for business. So let's do it.
What are we gonna do today?
I think we're gonna walk through some of the examples of best, in my opinion, quality products, what makes them best. I've collected these references, I think, for my entire life, and eventually to share with everyone, and we will walk through some of these examples today. What I liked about these two actually is that they don't just show you the product, but they give you the ability to use that even before registration. So rose.com is an interesting product. Sometimes we have too many things on the website repeated many times. This product is for this type of users. This product is for these 10 use cases. But what if we just combine this product is for these 5 types of users, like sellers, sales leaders, founders, etc.
Why should people watch this episode?
You're spending 8 hours a day, 7 days a week or so working on just one product. And today you can spend just 40 minutes and look at 25 products that can inspire you to look differently probably at what you're working on every single day. And I think it's beautiful to create the habit of noticing and uncovering.
Really quickly, I think a crazy stat is that more than 50% of you listening are not subscribed. If you can subscribe on YouTube, follow on Apple or Spotify podcasts, my commitment to you is that we'll continue to make this content better and better.
This episode is brought to you by WorkOS. If you're building a SaaS app, at some point your customers will start asking for enterprise features like SAML authentication and SCIM provisioning. That's where WorkOS comes in, making it fast and painless to add enterprise features to your app. Their APIs are easy to understand so that you can ship quickly and get back to building other features. Today, hundreds of companies are already powered by WorkOS, including ones you probably know like Vercel, Webflow, and Loom. WorkOS also recently acquired Warrant, the fine-grained authorization service. Warrant's product is based on a groundbreaking authorization system called Zanzibar, which was originally designed for Google to power Google Docs and YouTube. This enables fast authorization checks at enormous scale while maintaining a flexible model that can be adapted to even the most complex use cases. If you're currently looking to build role-based access control or other enterprise features like single sign-on, SCIM, or user management, you should consider WorkOS. It's a drop-in replacement for Auth0 and supports up to 1 million monthly active users for free. Check it out at workos.com/Aakash to learn more. That's workos.com/Aakash.
Today's episode is brought to you by Amplitude. Building great digital products is hard. You know that better than anyone. Getting teams aligned, measuring what matters, and scaling your product strategy isn't easy. But what if you had a clear framework to guide your next steps? That's exactly what Amplitude built. They studied the best product teams to understand what really drives impact and turn those insights into the digital experience maturity assessment. In 2 minutes, you'll be able to see where your team stands and what you can improve to build better products faster. Click the link in the caption to take the free assessment and get a clear path to product growth.
So how do you want to take that?
Just share your screen and get started.
All right, do you want to ask me any questions as I'm sharing that?
You can kind of guide us through and I'll ask questions about each one.
Each one. Okay, let's do that. Let me share my screen very quickly. Okay, so eventually how this board appeared. So it's named 25 Grow Flows GIFs. And I realized like last year, I've been recording small GIFs of different examples of product that I really liked, or like examples of interactions, UX. And it was stored somewhere on my desktop folder. Nobody has seen that. And it was very messy, and I realized why not sharing it with everybody, right? So it's like something useful that can inspire people to think about different flows. And so this is what I did here on this board, and we can walk through some of these examples and talk more about them and what makes them good. And there is like 5 flows in general, like decomposed here: the website, the sign up flow, the onboarding tutorials examples, sharing an invitation, and some upgrade triggers that are probably pretty interesting for people to look at. Yeah.
I love that taxonomy. So let's start at the top with website.
Let's start with the top, right? So when we are thinking about the website experience, like the main job here is to deliver the value, right? What value your product is delivering. And we can deliver that in like probably different dimensions. We can do that visually, we can do that through the copy, and I think the combination of both works best. So I collected here some examples that resonated with me personally. So one of them was Dropbox, how they shown the high-level idea of the product in quite interactive, immersive type of animation. And it shows also the principle that is called visceral delight. Visceral delight is about, it's like a behavioral psychology principle that shows that users resonate to visuals first. So in order to engage with something, we need to look at that and to be engaged with that. So instead of showing like a boring interface, probably of Dropbox, they did that in a different manner, and it appears right after the top section of the website, and it engages you to explore the product further. So I really like this one. Another one, of course, is Linear. It's also like in a GIF format. I think it takes time to upload. But what they did, I think it's very nice pattern, is how they shown their use cases, right? So instead of showing just a list of things that you can use this product for, they made this interactive, so you can scroll through these use cases, explore them separately, but also navigate between them without like looking for them on the website, which makes the discoverability of these use cases also quite good.
That one is really interesting because they have that secondary level of navigation actually to help you.
Exactly, and it doesn't look busy or noisy, right? So it feels natural, and I also love how they combine these two levels of navigation here without making it feel complex, right?
We just did Dropbox and Linear. We just talked about bring the product. What's the next example?
So the next example is rose.com, and what they are doing that not so many companies are doing, they are giving you the product right away before registering. So you can try it, you can use it, you can play with the actual product before signing up. And this is quite a risky concept because it can mean that, some leads will not register eventually, you will never see their email or credentials, but it helps to get more motivated leads, right? And the activation rate is typically higher for users who have tried the product before even signing up. So they have a bigger intent to stay and to do something meaningful. And they have also a case study about that. We can attach this to the description of the episode. That really shows that this idea of the product, let's say sandbox, helped to increase the activation rate.
Awesome. So it's a good example of your general concept of putting the user before the business. Here we're saying, hey, users, you want to see and use the product? We're not even going to make you sign up.
Absolutely, yeah. But it has its risks, right? So for very complex products, probably like very heavy B2B SaaS, it might be not the best concept. But for these cases, maybe you can try something that Navatic is using. So here they are not giving you the whole product right away before registering, but they are giving you the demo. So you can check the demo here, right? Walk through the product in like a fake sandbox environment, it still gets some understanding of what is here. It tells you more than just a screenshot or just a small GIF animation. It gives you more in-depth idea of the product before making a decision to sign up.
And that had a really interesting sort of onboarding walkthrough essentially as their demo.
Yeah, so I think I haven't checked what is deeper, but I like the way how they combined a little bit of onboarding experience within this little demo, even on the website before you go in depth and signing up, yeah.
Awesome. What's our next website example?
All right, the last but not the least, I think there are way more examples, is this product called Amplemarket. So what I really liked here is how they combined the roles and use cases for this positioning section of the website, right? So sometimes we have too many things on the website repeated many times. So once we said like this product is for this type of users, then we said this product is for these 10 use cases. But what if we just combine both, right? And we show contextually this product is for these 5 types of users, like sellers, sales leaders, founders, etc. And within each of that persona type, we describe the use case. I really love the combination of that and also how it looks like. It feels and looks very smooth in interaction.
Yeah, it's a really good interactivity, and so many products have multiple users, and trying to fit one messaging for all those users, often you're speaking to no one. So this allows you to speak to each person in a language that they will resonate with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the reason for that. And yeah, we can move forward to the sign up examples.
Okay, so if we summarize what we've learned from the websites, all of these have a super modern design. They're all, not all are putting the product forward. I guess 4 out of 5 are putting the product forward. But they're all giving you a really good, easy way to learn, is this a product for me?
I agree with that.
Awesome. So let's move into sign-up flows.
Sounds good. So what is happening right after the website? Users start registering in the product, and here we actually can lose the majority of them, and hopefully these examples will help us keep them. So one of the things I liked is from Figma or FigJam. It's not in the beginning of registration flow, it's already at the end when you are almost inside the product. And here they show you 3 use cases which you want to start from, but they are not just telling you this is for diagramming, for meetings, for brainstorming. They are also showing you on the side the actual look of the product, how it will look like, to build some expectations, to build the curiosity. And I think this visual pattern is also pretty nice to follow, not just telling but also showing, and to create that anticipation and curiosity of users to move forward. But again, to keep it limited, right? If you have 10 use cases, think about how to make it shorter, because there are different laws in behavioral psychology, but there is a Hicks law that tells us keep the options up to 3. This is the most optimal number to follow. So keep it 3 and make sure you're not overwhelming users.
Yeah, they make it super simple, and I love how they're showing more of the complex features too. These aren't the simplest features in FigJam. They're showing you comments and how to connect things together. So they're also doing a bit of education here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the purpose is not to educate, because it's still not the product yet, but more engage and build that curiosity to move forward.
Awesome.
Cool. Another example is from Dropbox, and it's actually one of my favorite ones to explain the idea of how you can ask profiling information without overwhelming users with the number of questions. So here, it's an interesting pattern and pretty straightforward. They are using progressive disclosure to show that number of questions. So after you told how big is your company, there is another question and then another one. To make it even better, you could show precisely how many questions are here, 5, 7, and keeping this number up to 7, also based on all the laws that we have from behavioral psychology. And I used a similar pattern in Miro actually before this one was rolled out, and it had a very good performance. It had a very good completion rate, and I would definitely recommend that as a go-to. And as you can see, it's pretty clean. There is no distraction here, there are no side visuals and other elements, animations. And the purpose of that is we keep users focused on answering this key profiling information instead of distracting them. And in Figma, they have something similar, and only on that step you have visuals. So adding visuals only when it's necessary, where it actually adds some value.
Yeah, it's some sort of a fork in the road. In that case, do you want to create a diagram or a meeting? And I think collecting this information is very important, especially in B2B products, because there's so much usually your product can do. And so you need to gather that right information so you can personalize the experience afterwards.
Absolutely. This is the reason why we are asking this profiling information. Yeah, and I have a short list of my favorite questions. It's collected in one of my newsletter articles. All right, let's move on the Loom. And here we have that example when they show some visuals on the side, right? And I think that's like we can use that pattern, especially for products that are established in a new category that are not pretty well known. Not necessarily Loom, but there are many other products that are established in something new, maybe with AI as well. But here I wanted to show how they combine different questions in one step contextually. So instead of doing many steps, they are asking you first, like how you're planning to use Loom for work, for education, and then within that, they are asking for your role. So instead of, duplicating all of that steps, they are making it more interactive, but also more like simple probably and contextual.
It's kind of a combination of what we've seen before, where Dropbox didn't have any imagery. FigJam had a pretty big focus.
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of put those two together, and then they're using the progressive disclosure, they're using the progress bar to give you a sense of how long this is going to take.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is why I love that as well, because it's like a combination of previous two patterns.
All right, Grammarly.
Sure. So here, that example was just to illustrate how to give users some necessary shortcuts at the right time in the right place. So for Grammarly, it's important to have the Chrome extension. Without that, you cannot use the product, you cannot experience the full value of that. And instead of postponing that decision, they are putting that very early, like at the end of their registration flow. You just need to install this Grammarly Chrome extension. And the idea here is how to think about these valuable actions and how to think when is the right time and the right place to ask users to do that action. And the earlier they can do that, the more likely they will come back to your product and will adopt it.
So many people have Chrome extensions, and that I think is the trouble, right? Is like, when do you ask the user to do it? So this is a very clever way to potentially advertise your other steps for users.
Absolutely. And one more example from FigJam, actually, pretty popular on this board. This is already after sign-up flow. So when users completed all the profiling information, they chose like the use case, and here they are already inside the product. FigJam is showing templates, but they are doing it in a very interesting way. I hope this GIF will get uploaded, right? So here they put these templates not as a pop-up, on top of the page that we usually see, but they put it contextually. You can see the preview of each template before choosing it. And then when you choose the template, they also keep the number of them very limited, like just 4 templates per each use case, I suppose. When you click on that, they guide you with contextual tips. So yeah, now it will be uploaded. You will be navigated through different parts of that template contextually. So there will be no checklist or like a disconnected guide. It will be on specific parts of each template, meaning that they are customizing this guide for each template. And when I was doing my experimentation at Miro, I've also seen that the most significant results happened only after we added some personalization layer on any onboarding experience. It can be checklist, it can be tooltip, it can be whatever you want, but without personalization versus with personalization makes a big difference.
That's awesome. And so when you hover over those, does it place it automatically into the board for you?
It shows you just the preview, but then you click, it places the template. So hover is just the preview and click is like placing the template.
That's cool. I like that. Hover to preview, and it's kind of interactive. Like you almost feel like you're getting some reward for hovering. And so it also encourages you to check out the other templates.
Yeah. As we speak, yeah.
So if we were to summarize some of the lessons from these sign-up flows, right? Progressive disclosure, having a progress bar, inserting key steps and demographic questions like your Chrome extension and things you want to know about people, and then trying to make it all interactive.
Yeah, so I think that covers it very well. But also maybe to add is like, don't over engineer, because sometimes if we make all of that interactive, all of that visual, it can be too much. And I've been in these situations as well at Miro. For example, one of my mistakes happened when I used this pattern of showing some previews for all steps of the sign up journey. And I've used these visuals, GIF animations, for steps when these were not necessary. For example, there was a step like set up your team or invite your teammates, and there were sticky notes and cursors floating there. And people started interacting with them instead of doing the actions they needed to do. And we had a drop on every single step because of that. And my intention as a designer at that time, it was a long time ago, was like to make it better for the user, to make it more beautiful, more engaging. But the result of that was the opposite, right? So it wasn't good for business. So we decided to make it like here, very clean, but only for necessary steps we shown that visuals. Yeah.
Really good nuance. So what's the third flow people should pay attention to?
The third one here is onboarding. Onboarding, and I think 5 examples is not enough to illustrate the importance of onboarding, but let's look at some of them. So one of the examples I put here is from Canva. By the way, they changed their onboarding and now they don't have this one. But what they did in the last couple of years is that they shown all new users a welcome to Canva presentation, which is like your first week in Canva. And on every single slide, there was that learn and play idea. So on one slide, they show you what you can do here. On another slide, you can learn and play. So I think it's interesting concept of giving users a safe space, like a sandbox where they can look at some features, but also try them out without actual purpose to do something meaningful, but still it's a safe space to try things, especially for very complex horizontal products like Canva, that where you need to explain so many things. The idea of explaining it visually through videos, through GIFs, through presentations is pretty powerful. Yeah.
That's awesome. And do you know what they changed it to?
Now, when I last checked, they have the typical tutorial when they had the tooltips with like next. I will keep checking, and if there will be something new and interesting, I will definitely share it with the community.
So this video, though, what makes it work, I think, is Canva can be a bit overwhelming and they're trying to target non-designers. So I think this is how, if you think about your ICP as a non-designer and you don't want them to feel the overwhelm of a Photoshop, maybe you put a video in there so that they can really address that overwhelm problem head on.
That might be one of the reasons, right? And for some reason they took it away. So I'm curious to understand why maybe it didn't perform well. But my assumption is that without extra nudge, users were not engaged with that format. So they were probably just opening that first week in Canva presentation and closed that. So in quantitative data, it's hard to measure if it led to some results, but probably qualitatively, I still feel there is like a value in that format, because users can just scroll through that presentation and memorize certain facts and certain features about the product. That's hard to measure in metrics. Yeah, shall we move forward?
Let's look at Slack's onboarding.
Yeah, let's look at Slack. I think they haven't changed their onboarding for many years, and I've seen that over and over. And what they have actually very short walkthrough of just 4 actions, but this is very guided walkthrough that you cannot, interact with anything else. So they highlight a certain feature like a channel or a home or how to customize your theme, and you are like just focused on that. And instead of doing like very complex tutorial, they just show you these 4 key things about the product with an assumption probably that as a user, you can figure it out by yourself, because the product itself designed in quite a good way. It's pretty intuitive. And instead of overwhelming you with these guides and tutorials, they just show you 4 key things about the product in this interactive way.
Yeah, the interactive tutorial is probably the oldest onboarding pattern out there. But if it's working, why try to over-design it?
Kinda. But here, yeah, I think what they do pretty well is like they are showing some simple GIFs instead of just steps. So it also helps users to get some, to memorize what is happening here. Yeah, but I would say it's not super interesting pattern. It's pretty straightforward, and so many companies are still using it.
It works. What about Notion?
Yeah, actually Notion is here not precisely about onboarding, because their onboarding is very simple. They have just getting started page. They don't have any tooltips, any checklist, anything like that, because the product is so intuitive that you can figure it out just by playing with their getting started page. But here, this example is about onboarding to new features. So I remember in summer, probably that was in summer when I saw that update, they introduced a bunch of new features like AI, something else, and instead of onboarding you to each of them separately and throwing up like several pop-ups in every single session, they just combined all of that in one single experience that you can interact with. But even if you don't have time right now, you can close it and you can get back to that later. So I think onboarding is not just about first user experience, it's also about new feature launches, new experiences rollout, like AI, for example, these days. And you can think about patterns that are reusable, that are consistent, and that are, not overwhelming, right? So I think that one illustrates that pretty well.
So here, how do you get to this page?
First, it was shown immediately. So when you open Notion, it was shown to you immediately. When you close that, I think there was like a question mark or something to get back to that. And now I'm not sure if it's so obvious how to get back to that. Probably it's hidden somewhere inside the learning center. We are on Miro, you see like the question mark on the bottom corner. Like the learning center is usually the place where everything like that lives later on.
Okay, so this is a really cool way. A lot of people, they're reinventing their products with AI. They want to walk people through all these new features. You could try something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's move forward probably to another one, pretty common pattern, checklist. Everybody likes checklist these days. And I put here an example from Dropbox because I think what they did very well, they combined the visual element inside this checklist. So instead of just showing you steps and a lot of text, they are showing you some simple GIFs to also help you understand what is happening within each action. The number of steps is very limited. It's like up to 7, I think, as well. And they also have this minimized view of the checklist. So you can come back to that later. If you come back to the product after the first session, on the second session, you can still get back to that checklist.
I think that's a very common pattern for onboarding checklists these days, is to kind of minimize your progress into the bottom left. But what they've innovated here, like one, it's a pretty short checklist, even though they probably have so many other things different people wanted to throw in there. So they had some discipline. And then 2, most people are doing like static images or something like that, but they're trying to keep it a little bit more interactive with the GIFs.
Absolutely. And the GIFs are also pretty simple, right? So they are not just a screencast of the interface. They're showing the things in a more simplified manner.
Yeah, it's very focused on that specific element. It's not like hard to see what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the last example here, actually you cannot find it on production because that was one of the experiments that I was working on with the team at Miro. And the idea here was to show, demonstrate the first experience in a little bit more human touch approach, even for self-service onboarding. So there is a video like with Matt, customer success manager at Miro. And then on every single step of this tutorial, Matt is guiding you through that flow. So he's talking, he's showing you what to do. Like there were subtitles here as well. And it's pretty interesting pattern that instead of all this checklist or tooltips, you see the human who is guiding you through the product. And at that time, that was a big bet that actually didn't have a stat significant result on activation. But the reason of that was, again, in lack of personalization.
Today's episode is brought to you by Maven. The problem with most courses online, like Udemy, is there's no live component, and the instructors aren't experts in their fields, they're professors. At Maven, you get direct live access to experts and operators from the world's best tech companies. You can't get that access anywhere else, in any university, and you usually can't find them on YouTube either. I've featured so many of Maven's experts in the newsletter and podcast for that reason. To help you out, I've put together a collection of courses I recommend at maven.com/x/Aakash. This includes courses like AI prototyping for PMs, product sense for PMs, and getting an AI PM certification. Visit it now at maven.com/x/AAKASH.
And that time it was very hard to personalize that. Can you imagine like creating all of these videos for dozens of templates and use cases is pretty expensive. But today I would definitely reconsider that pattern because we have AI to generate these videos and to make it, scalable. So, but the idea here was to make it more human rather than just, a product UI interface.
Very cool. And how did this perform?
Yeah, as I told you, that was a big bet, meaning that it took like more than a month of development and launching, and it didn't drop anything, so it's good, but it didn't have a stat significant impact on increase in aha moment in activation metrics. However, the second iteration was with a little bit of personalization, and it had a little bit more effect on aha moment and activation rate. But that time the team decided to choose a different pattern because of scalability issues, right? You cannot keep personalizing, you can't keep scaling that because there was not enough technology and resources for that time. Yeah.
So if we had to summarize some of the lessons here, keep it simple. We see like Slack and Dropbox especially, they're keeping it very simple. Keeping it interactive and visual. Just about everybody is having moving graphics of some sort. And then trying to add some element of personalization where it makes sense.
Exactly. I love the last one, when it makes sense and when you can really personalize, because I think for B2B products, it can be quite difficult to make a true personalization. But for that, we need to collect relevant profiling information, right? And then we have some data to personalize it.
All right. What's the fourth flow?
The fourth one was about sharing and invitation, especially for multiplayer products, right? It's one of the main bottlenecks sometimes, single users, no teams, and we want to turn single users to teams. And I was working on sharing experience at Miro for my whole time there, and I know how difficult it is to simplify sharing experience because it gets more complex, and it's very difficult to keep it simple. So the first example that I have here is from Linear, and this is exactly how they keep it simple. So instead of showing you all types of permissions and roles, all types of sharing links, they just show you the link by default. So they're also using the power of default. So invite link is the first and the only one option you see. And if you want to invite with email, you can just turn to that mode, but they are not overwhelming you with all other things and complexities. And I think one of the principles from Linear playbook is simple first, then powerful. And I think they are really following that principle now here in this experience.
Yeah, this is really, really important for expansion of that account once you get into that account. And so that's why I think focusing on this interface does actually generate some ROI for folks. And I love this beautiful example.
Absolutely. Yeah, so let's see what's next. It's like a little bit of B2C vibe here from Airbnb. And once I noticed that they showed me this prompt to share the wish list with the group right after I created the wish list. And when I closed this pop-up, they showed me a little tooltip how to share it if you want to share it later. So what is beautiful here, I think the timing and the placement. So they uncovered what is the right time to introduce to me this sharing functionality right after I created some value in the product. So right after I created this wish list. If they would show me that, let's say in the middle of something, like when I was searching for new locations, that would be relevant timing. But I think with these sharing prompts and any type of prompts, we really need to understand when it's the right time to show that. And I would say probably in data, they don't have a huge sharing rate here, but at least users are not annoyed. You're showing to me something that is not relevant to me right now. They are also thinking about the appearance of that. They make it look interesting and engaging. And for me, I actually didn't know that I can share my wish list with some friends. So now I know, and whenever I need that, I know how to find it.
Yeah, I think they've really thought through the user job to be done here, right? We normally travel not alone, especially when we're traveling in Airbnbs. And when we create a wish list, we often want to get people's feedback. So I like how they have thought really deeply about that job to be done. And that's when they use a pop-up. They're not just shoving the pop-up in your face, but it's at the right time in the journey.
Absolutely. Another point about putting invitation triggers at the right time and the right point, and this one is provocative, is putting that invitation step in your sign-up flow. And I've heard so many times, and I've been that person when I was more designer than a product person. Let's remove that step. Who will invite during the sign-up flow? They are just registering. They have never tried this product. Why you are asking them to invite? Are you crazy? And also in data, you can see this is not super performing entry point for invitations. However, why B2B companies, especially and multiplayer products, are still keeping it? Because there are some people who are coming with intent to work with the team. And this is the point when they actually invite. And if they do, the team activation rate is significantly higher for them. And this is one of the reasons. And the second reason is that if you are building a multiplayer product, but not so many people really know that your product can be used collaboratively, this is the point to introduce that. So people will remember that, I've seen that invitation step some time ago. I skipped that, of course, but I remember that I can invite someone. So they will understand that the product is collaborative. So here I put a Loom example just to show how they also combine this invitation link and email in one step. However, in my practice from Miro as well, the only method that worked very well is invitation link. So instead of giving all possible options like invite with email, invite with, something else. Slack, yeah. Just give them the link. It's much easier. Of course, it requires some context switch, but if they want to invite, they will do that. And the link is the easiest option for that.
Okay. Who's our next invitation example?
The next one, I think these two are pretty similar, right? Notion and Figma. These are already pretty complex invitation model windows because they have different methods, right? And they also combine here publishing the page, sharing the page, all of that in one place. And still it feels pretty simple. However, just to remember what I wanted to show here, was this prompt. So I hope we will get there after the GIF will start playing. So when you invite someone to your Notion page, you see that prompt, upgrade guest to member. So I think that is pretty beautiful example to introduce roles, because now you know there are guests and there are members. And if you're on a free plan, you might not realize some limitations. And now you know, like, I actually invite everyone as a guest, and I can do that, but actually they can become members. And if I want them to become members, I need to pay, or I will face some limitations. So I think contextual placement of that permissions, roles and permissions within that sharing experience is pretty meaningful, and Notion is doing this quite well. So, and the last is Figma, I think, just to show how they can organize so many sharing options in one place and still keep it relatively simple and easy to understand. So for me, it's pretty straightforward sharing experience. You can publish to community if you want, you can get embed code, but here you can also invite by email, copy link, everything in one place.
Very cool. So sharing critical surface, and I love how we have some simple examples here, like linear, simple first, then powerful. But we also have some fully powerful examples. And it seems like the more B2C we got, the more we got to the notions, the more complex they got, because sharing can happen in so many different ways in a B2C product. You might publish to page, you might publish to community, you might publish a website on a custom domain. So I guess that forced them to be a little bit more complex.
Absolutely. I would say B2B can be also pretty complex. You can check Miro sharing experience whenever you want. And I've been working on it very long time. And after me, a team was working on it for years. And the complexity there is not just about the sharing methods, like by link, embed, email, but also in roles and permissions, because you can have so many different modes, like can view, can edit, can comment, but you can also have different roles: admin, member, guest, viewer. And to organize all of that to make it easy to understand for end user is pretty difficult. Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's move to our final surface.
Absolutely final, but probably the most important one: how to motivate our precious users to upgrade, and how to make it ethical, right? Because we don't want to overwhelm them with these notifications and pop-ups and stuff like that. One of the examples I've actually noticed on Riverside that we are using right now is that summarized way of showing features and differences of different plans. So instead of giving you, let's say, one pop-up with only just like with one feature why you should upgrade to pay, they are collecting all features in one place, and you can compare pro, business, and you can choose, and you can probably explore it further before you go into pricing page. Because on pricing page, you see that not in a visual way, it's very overwhelming. You have many features and lists of features, and here you can interact, and you can dive deeper into each one. And if something resonates, you can upgrade, and you can decide which one is the right one, pro or business.
Very cool. Yeah, I like how interactive it is, how it shows you all of the features. A lot of times these contextual upgrade triggers, they just show that one reason. But what I've noticed when using Riverside, if I hit one of these, they'll actually show me all of the benefits, which is very cool.
I also think so. I also think that it's pretty cool pattern. Would love to learn what are the results of that. Another one is, again, like switching from B2B to B2C a little bit, is premium suggestions from Grammarly. So instead of throwing these pop-ups at you all the time, they integrated the limitation into the daily usage of the product. So if you're on the free version, you have free premium suggestions. And when you're out of these suggestions, they actually suggest you to upgrade, or they say like there are no suggestions left. And organically, you start developing a habit of using these premium suggestions. But at some point, you realize, free plan is not enough for me, and I'm ready to upgrade to keep using that without limitation. And that was my case, actually. After a certain number of times, I upgraded to Grammarly paid plan, because I'm not a native speaker, and of course, I need that help.
Awesome. I like how they show the one more suggestion left. So they're also giving you a little bit of that countdown element.
Absolutely, yeah. Another one is probably something that you've mentioned previously, like showing triggers connected to one feature. And in Canva, they have so many features, right? They have so many use cases, so many features, and they have a system of premium triggers that first they show this little crown icon next to each premium feature. But if you want to explore it, they show you this pop-up when they explain you what's here, but also they show you a little GIF about that experience. I would say I like more this approach probably because it gives you more like zoomed out perspective of the entire plan. Yeah, however, here I think it also makes sense, especially for scalability. If you have a product like Canva with so many use cases and features and premium features, you need to think about the approach that will be scalable. So they are using this method, this pop-up plus this crown icon for all features, which makes it the experience at least consistent, right? So if you would see all these super different elements and different triggers, that would be pretty annoying.
And Riverside has a clear ICP. They just have one podcaster. Canva has 100 different types of users. They're the people creating social media posts, the people editing videos. They just have so many different use cases. So they need a more scalable way. And they probably can't show all million features because not all million features are going to be relevant to you.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Loom has a very similar approach to what we have just seen with Riverside. They also combine several features, just 3 of them, in one pop-up view. But here they don't have this comparison of different plans. The concept is like not to drive your upgrade decision by just one feature or one reason, but to show you the whole perspective of the product. And I also like how it looks, it feels like the interactive element of that, and definitely worth trying it out. By the way, this is not for upgrade, but for activation of the trial. And by the way, all of these touch points or triggers can be used for both purposes. If you are on a free plan, you can activate the trial. If you're in a trial, you can activate the paid plan. And it's pretty scalable approach as well. Yeah.
I love that for trial upgrades.
Mm-hmm. And last but not the least, Miro. It's called action-based triggers. So if you can see, they have here spaces. Previously, it was projects, and they are not hiding that function entirely. You can still press add spaces, but you will face this trigger that if you want to create spaces, it's available for you in our paid plan and you can upgrade. So it's like action-based contextual triggers for specific features. And by the way, today, because I was preparing that module for my course, I noticed very similar example from Figma, but what they also show there, they put it in a little bit different context, but they show there, don't show me this again, something like that. So like the checkbox, don't show me again, something like that. So for repetitive actions, because here you cannot create any space, probably you will face it once, you will close it, you remember, okay, it's not available for me. Maybe some other teammates will face that limitation, and then you collaboratively decide that, all right, guys, we need a paid plan. This is the reason of showing some action-based triggers. I wouldn't overuse that strategy because it can become a dark pattern if we, let's say, place all of that actions, but instead of giving the value, you give them the trigger, but adding it once or maybe for 1 or 2 features maximum in their product makes sense, because in data, it shows like performance of these triggers is kind of good, is better than any type of banner, let's say, that we just put on the top and everybody is avoiding that banner.
Yeah, they just X that away. Awesome. So that's it for our 25 designs. Thank you so much for bringing your taste, your collection. I know you've collected hundreds of these, and these are the top 25, so I really appreciate that. So I want to hear a little bit more about what you're up to now, because you're not heading growth design at Miro now. What is taking up your time these days?
I'm so busy these days because I'm a founder of Growth Mates. This is my advisory practice, but also the podcast, the newsletter. Now there will be also the course on Maven. And my mission is to help others grow meaningful products and to make it user-friendly. What is good for user is good for the business in the end. And this is what I'm busy with right now. So advisory, podcast and newsletter. And these days, in the last 3 weeks, I'm super busy with my course because I'm creating the modules, the learning materials for that, and super excited about that as well.
Amazing. You could get $100 off Kate's course using Maven X Aakash. It's highly recommended. As you can see here, she has great taste. If people want to find you online, where can they find you online?
I think LinkedIn is the best place to find me, to follow what I'm doing. And yeah, if you want to ask me anything, just drop me a message. Yeah, I'm pretty open to answer any questions.
Amazing. She has a great LinkedIn to follow. Check out our newsletter collaborative article if you want to learn more about what growth design is. We've set out an ultimate guide for that last year, and I'll see you all later.
Thank you. See you.